I knew something was off when the doorbell rang at 3 a.m., and my wife didn't even flinch. Let me back up. I'm not one of those suspicious types. I'm the kind of guy who programs his own smart lights to fade into a warm hue at 6 p.m., makes homemade sourdough on Sundays, and leaves little post-it love notes on the fridge even after 7 years of marriage. I'm not some control freak or clingy guy. Hell, I taught her how to factory reset her phone. Maybe that's where I messed up. Anyway, the night in question, I'm lying there in bed, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling fan rotate like it's thinking harder than both of us. The house is dead quiet, too quiet, like it's holding its breath. And then, ding-dong. One single ring. I sat up, checked the cameras on my phone. Nobody there. Just an alert that the front porch motion sensor had triggered for the 5th night in a row. I look over at her. She's on her stomach, hair everywhere, phone face down, sound off, like always. And that's when it hit me. That damn phone. It's never on when I'm around. She used to be glued to it, TikToks, Pinterest boards, endless Instagram rabbit holes. But now it's like the thing doesn't exist unless I'm at work or asleep. I started paying attention. When she's in the kitchen alone, phone out. When I walk in, boom, lock screen, face down. It wasn't just once or twice. It was every single time. I asked her about it, real casual one evening. Babe, your phone okay? I haven't heard it buzzing like a week. She smiled, that tight, rehearsed smile. Oh, I just keep it on Do Not Disturb now. Helps me focus. Focus? She's not curing cancer. She teaches Zoom yoga and sells hand-poured candles on Etsy. So I did what any husband with a gut feeling, 3 degrees in engineering, and access to every square inch of his house's infrastructure would do. I set a trap. Nothing crazy. Just a little wise motion sensor tucked into the corner of her home office, which, let's be honest, is really just where she keeps her ring lights and fake plants. Sync the sensor to my old burner iPhone. No Wi-Fi alert, no chime, just a silent push notification. Every time someone moves in that room, I get pinged. Simple. First day? Ping at 11:52 p.m. Second day? 12:21 a.m. Third? 12:48 a.m. Every time, it was after I had gone to bed. And every time, she said she was just downstairs meditating. Yeah, with her phone on silent, the door closed, and lights dimmed like it's date night in a horror movie. I needed more. I needed proof. So I mirrored her phone. If you're expecting some hacker montage, sorry to disappoint. All I did was wait until she was in the shower, use that same old trick I taught her years ago, connect to iCloud via desktop, use her saved password from our password manager, which she never changed, and mirror messages to my MacBook. Took 5 minutes. Almost felt too easy. Like cheating on a pop quiz you wrote the answers for. And that's when I met him. Gee, just an initial. That's all he signed off with. But oh, he was poetic. Romantic. Disgusting. You're the only real thing in my life. Tonight was magic. Even if he's upstairs, I couldn't stop myself. I still taste you. That last one made me physically gag. I scrolled faster than a teenager deleting his browser history. She replied just as mushy. I wish we could just run away. He's so oblivious. I don't even think he suspects. Counting the hours until our next session, smiling face with horns. Yeah, session. Real subtle. Now, here's where it gets fun. I'm not a hothead. I'm a planner. You cheat on me? Fine. But I'm not blowing up your phone. I'm not confronting you in tears on the kitchen floor. I'm going to make it hurt. Slowly. Publicly. And with flair. So I watched. And waited. For a week. Then another. I collected timestamps, matched them with sensor alerts, compared them to her GPS movements. I even noted patterns in her perfume usage. Yes, I went full forensic. By the time our anniversary rolled around, I had a timeline, a suspect, and a plan. And I was just waiting for her to hang herself with her own smart speaker. Because if there's one thing people always forget about tech, it listens. I knew I couldn't just tell anyone what I'd found. That's not how you go viral. That's not how you win. You want to make a cheater uncomfortable? You talk. But if you really want to make them squirm, you let them talk. Let them spill every sordid, self-justifying word out loud. Preferably with witnesses. Preferably with receipts. And I had both. The key to any good trap is patience. And theatrics. Theatrics are essential. So here's what I did. I played dumb. Oh, I played it like Daniel Day-Lewis. Clueless husband to the end. I even brought her breakfast in bed the next morning after reading her text exchange with G, where she said, and I quote, "He makes me feel alive." I don't know how to go back to Dad. Charming, right? So I cooked her scrambled eggs, kissed her forehead, and even threw in a happy early anniversary as I set the tray down. She smiled, not like a wife smiles at her husband, but like a cat that thinks it got away with something. And that's when I knew I had her. Hook, line, and ego. A few nights later, over dinner, I suggested we throw a little anniversary get-together. Small gathering. Just family and close friends. She lit up like it was her birthday. Of course she did. She lives for social media moments, fake candid smiles, champagne toasts, and pretending we're some kind of aspirational couple that belongs on a Pottery Barn catalog. That sounds perfect, she said, beaming. I'll handle decorations. Maybe we can cater from that little French place we love. Whatever you want, I said. Let's make it special. Special wasn't the word. More like cinematic. Now, you've got to understand, our house is smart. Like, really smart. I designed the system myself back when I was still freelancing for a security tech firm. There isn't a single room that doesn't have at least one connected device in it. Motion sensors, voice assistants, networked speakers, cameras. The only room I left untouched was the guest bathroom, and even that has a motion-triggered faucet. My wife thought it was all for convenience. Energy savings. Security. Whatever. What she didn't realize was that the system logs everything. Every command. Every whisper. Every, "Hey Google," and "Alexa, play Marvin Gaye." So when I say I rigged the house, I mean I rigged it. Step 1. I updated our smart speaker in the dining room. Installed custom firmware. Nothing traceable. Nothing obvious. Just a tiny tweak that would automatically record and upload audio triggered by a code phrase. That phrase? I'm glad we did this. Why that one? Because I knew she'd say it. She said it at every big event we've ever hosted. It's her hallmark phrase, right before clinking glasses or hugging people goodbye. It's practically muscle memory. Step 2. I created a hidden live stream page on a private YouTube link. Password protected. Unlisted. No tags. Just clean and quiet, ready to go live the second I toggled the feed. Then I synced the speaker's mic to a wireless stream encoder. All invisible to the naked eye. To her, it'd still be playing Spotify and answering weather questions. But to me, it was an audio confession booth with surround sound. Now, I wasn't going to do anything illegal. Let's make that clear. I wasn't going to hack her texts or leak anything private. But if she chose to talk, loudly, in our shared dining room, with friends, while the mic was hot, well, who was I to stop her? The invites went out that week. I used a cutesy Canva template she'd used before. Gold borders. Soft cursive script. 7 years of laughs, love, and loyalty. I couldn't even type that without snickering. We got a solid RSVP list. Her sister, her yoga clients, our neighbors, my old college roommate Nick, even a few couples from her old therapist meetup group. I say her because I went once, got called defensive, and never went back. The day before the party, I made a test run. I walked into the dining room, smiled at the speaker, and said, "I'm glad we did this." Ping. Signal went live. Stream activated. Audio clear as a bell. I even whispered a few lines to make sure mic sensitivity was where I needed it. Perfect. You could hear everything. Every shift in tone, every pause, every lie someone was about to regret. Party day rolled around. She was giddy, practically bouncing around the house in a silk robe and a to-do list clutched to her chest. Her phone stayed within 6 inches of her body the entire day, of course. D&D still on. Still locked. Still facing down. By 6:45, guests started arriving. Wine was poured. The French catering trays started making their rounds, flaky pastry things with names I can't pronounce and didn't care to. I played the doting husband, shook hands, hugged friends, made jokes about turning 39 again. All of it. She looked beautiful, by the way. That part never changed. Her hair was up, backless dress, gold earrings I bought her last year on a trip I now regret paying for. Everyone kept saying how happy we looked. I smiled and said, "It's all her. She keeps me young." Every time I said it, she giggled, not at the compliment, but at the idea that I was still buying her act. At 7:30, I gave a toast. Real sweet stuff. Talked about how love is built on honesty, how trust is earned every day. I kept eye contact with her the whole time. She nodded, eyes shimmering like a nominee at the Oscars. Then I said it. I'm glad we did this. Click. No one noticed the sound cue but me. The stream was on. The mic was hot. Now, all I had to do was wait. Because I knew something she didn't. I knew G was in the house. And I knew she couldn't resist talking about him, eventually. I also knew she wasn't quite as careful as she thought. Earlier that week, I'd installed facial recognition software to our doorbell camera. And G, aka Greg Martin, licensed marriage counselor and the guy who officiated our last anniversary vow renewal, had walked through my front door with a bottle of red and a smirk that made me want to break it over his head. But I didn't, because I had something better. I had his voice, his texts, his presence. And soon, I'd have her words immortalized for everyone to hear. To her, this was the best night of her year. To me, it was the prologue. Next, well, you'll see. You ever watch someone perform their own downfall in real time? It's poetic. Like watching a bird fly headfirst into a window, then puff up its feathers and pretend nothing happened. That was my wife. Every move she made that night was a dance step closer to self-obliteration, and she didn't even know the music had changed. I made sure of it. The dining room was buzzing, clinking glasses and soft jazz in the background. I milled around, keeping an eye on the smart speaker in the corner, inconspicuous, glowing soft blue. It looked like any other Bluetooth device. But that thing was recording every breath in that room. And the live stream was on, feeding audio to a private YouTube page that only I had access to for now. At 8:02, she pulled Greg aside. That's right. Gee. The man, the myth, the therapy-approved man-child she'd been texting late at night while I made her turmeric lattes and folded her godforsaken yoga towels. Greg Martin. Marriage counselor. Clinical manipulator. Faux deep type who probably reads Rumi quotes out loud in the shower. The same guy who sat across from me for 2 years, nodding like a bobblehead while I confessed my fears about growing distant, all while he was growing suspiciously close to my wife. And now here he was, standing next to the wine rack, whispering to her like they were playing spy games. Except this time, I was the one wearing the wire. I saw it happen in real time. She leaned in, giggling, hand on his chest, a gesture I'd once thought was mine. His hand moved to her back, low, possessive. She didn't pull away, didn't glance around, didn't even check her phone. That's when I knew she felt safe. Big mistake. I circled toward the patio door, hovering just close enough to hear, just far enough to not be obvious. Her voice was low, but the mic didn't care. It picked up everything. I thought I was going to lose it when he did that toast, she said, trying to sound casual. Greg chuckled. You played it cool. Barely. Every time he says something sweet like that, it makes me feel like the worst person on the planet. You're not, he said quickly, soothing. You're just stuck. Yeah, well, after tonight, maybe I won't be. She sipped her wine. You really think he has no clue? Zero. He looks at you like a puppy that just learned to walk. I clenched my jaw. My hands itched. But I didn't move. I just smiled at a guest walking past and nodded like everything was fine. Because this moment wasn't about rage. It was about evidence. Inside, the speaker listened. The stream recorded. The clock ticked. Then she said it. I'm glad we did this. Boom. Trigger phrase. Confirmed. Timestamped. That was it, the final piece. Her voice. His laughter. Their proximity. My party. My house. My speaker. My terms. I walked back to the kitchen, grabbed a sparkling water, and took a long sip like a man who just solved a crime in Act 1 but still had the second act to burn through. I checked the stream on my phone. Clear. Running. Perfect. And then I made the next move. I cued the clip. See, earlier that week, I had taken snippets of their messages, just the texts, no images, and fed them into a text-to-speech AI, set to both their voices. Took some finesse. Needed hours of raw recordings to model each voice. But between Greg's online TED Talk ramblings and her endless Instagram stories, I had plenty to work with. The result? A perfect simulation. 2 voices, layered over soft piano, saying things like, I wish I met you first. I can't stand touching him anymore. I'm counting the days until you say the word. He doesn't suspect a thing. It was like a trailer for a movie they never wanted released. And guess what? I set it to autoplay on the dining room speaker at 8:15 p.m. sharp. No intro. No warning. Just voices in the dark. And at 8:15 on the dot, right as people were cutting into their cake and making plans to Uber home, it happened. Greg's voice came through first. Crisp, intimate. You know, I was scared at first. Sleeping with a client's wife isn't exactly ethical. Laughter broke out in the room. Nervous laughter. Because nobody quite knew what was happening. Was this part of the party? Then her voice followed, layered and breathy. He has no idea. I tell him I'm meditating. He thinks I'm down here doing yoga. There was a pause, a cold, crawling silence. Then someone said, "Wait, is that you?" Eyes turned. She froze mid-bite, fork hovering in the air, cheeks still puffed with laughter. But her face fell like glass shattering in reverse. Slow, jagged, irretrievable. I let it play. "Greg, this is insane. What if he finds out?" "He won't. Trust me. I'm a professional." The room erupted. Gasps. Muttering. Someone dropped a glass. Greg took a step back, pale as milk. She stood up, lips parted, trying to speak, but nothing came out except a single word. "No." I walked into the dining room then. Calm. Smiling. Holding my phone like a remote detonator. "Surprise," I said. Her eyes locked on mine. Wide. Dilated. Betrayal hitting her in reverse, like a bullet realizing it's been fired at the wrong target. What is this?" she stammered. "Oh, just a little montage. Thought I'd spice up the playlist." I looked around. Everyone enjoying the show? Greg turned and bolted. Literally ran for the door like a raccoon caught in a kitchen. A couple of people tried to stop him, but he shoved past. Last thing I heard was a neighbor yelling, "Is that the guy from the therapy sessions?" She looked like she was going to faint. Her hands were trembling, mouth opening and closing like a fish suffocating on air. "You bugged the house?" she hissed, finally finding a voice. "No," I said. "You bugged your conscience. I just gave it a microphone." Her sister, bless her blunt little heart, said, "Wait, you slept with Greg." "The Greg? Our Greg? From the vow renewal?" I walked to the speaker, pressed pause, and let the silence speak for me. Guests started to scatter. Some glared. Some just walked out stunned. A few stayed, mostly out of morbid curiosity. She was shaking. "You planned this? This whole thing? Just to humiliate me?" "Correction," I said, turning to face her fully. "You did that part yourself. I just gave it a soundtrack." She slapped me. I took it. No flinch. No reaction. Just a blink. And then I said, low and even, "I filed a malpractice suit this morning. Against Greg. Turns out, sleeping with a patient's spouse is frowned upon. And I've got all the documentation." Then I walked away. Out the front door. Into the cool night air. I didn't even take a coat. Because at that moment, I was nuclear. She would never come back from this. But I wasn't done. Oh no. There was still one twist left. The funny thing about revenge is that people assume it ends when the screaming starts. But for me, that was the intermission. The standing ovation was still coming. The night after the party, I didn't go home. Didn't go to a buddy's house. Didn't hole up in a motel like some Lifetime movie character. I checked into the conference suite at the Radisson, top floor, same view we had when we first moved to town. That detail wasn't sentimental, I just wanted to see the neighborhood from above, like a general surveying a battlefield. From there, I watched the fallout unfold in real time. By 10 p.m., the group chat she shared with her yoga clients was exploding. Someone leaked a voice clip from the party. One of the moms, the one who always wore those fake crystal earrings and thought turmeric could cure trauma, posted a series of screenshots to her healing Instagram story. Captioned them with, "When the truth vibrates at a higher frequency than your marriage." I laughed so hard I almost dropped my phone. By midnight, Greg's professional page was gone. Poof. Deactivated. No more testimonials. No more book now button. Just a 404 error where his smug smile used to be. I checked his LinkedIn. Still up, but his last endorsement from a colleague had a comment underneath that just said, "You helped them process infidelity?" LOL. Iconic. The next morning, I woke to a flurry of missed calls. 10 from her. 4 from her sister. 2 from my mother-in-law, who never liked me and once told me I needed more expressive eyebrows. Now she was leaving voicemails like, "I don't know what happened, but I think this has gone too far, Brian." Think of the family. Family? "Lady, your daughter lit the match and threw it over her shoulder while walking into our anniversary party like she was in a perfume commercial." And her? My wife? Oh, she was unraveling in high def. I played the first voicemail on speaker as I shaved. "Brian, please. I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't mean for this to happen. I was lost. I was confused. Please, just call me back. I'm so sorry." She sounded like she was trying to cry but didn't have the breath to get there. Like she was auditioning for a role that kept slipping through her fingers. The second message was shorter. "I need to explain. I swear, there's more to it." Third one? "The mask slipped. You had no right to broadcast that. That was private. This is slander. I could sue." There it is. There's the real her. She always did shift gears fast, from victim to viper in under 60 seconds. But I was already past that point. I'd moved from surveillance to strategy. Because here's what I didn't tell anyone yet, not the guests, not her, not even my own lawyer. Greg wasn't just some affair partner. He wasn't just a therapist violating his own code. He was my planted therapist. See, 6 months ago, we weren't doing great. That much is true. But instead of randomly finding a marriage counselor like she claimed, she picked Greg, through a friend, through a referral, whatever. She booked the sessions. She insisted. At first, I went along with it, not thinking twice. But after the third session, something about him bothered me. Not just the way he listened, that performative stillness, that perfectly timed head tilt, but the way he watched her. It was subtle. But I've always been good with patterns. I build systems for a living. Security networks. Data behavior monitoring. I'm not easily thrown. So I ran a background check. Nothing illegal. Just a sweep. And guess what I found? Greg had 2 malpractice complaints filed 5 years ago in a different state. Both quietly dismissed. Both involved inappropriate boundaries with clients. Nothing stuck, but the breadcrumbs were there. I bookmarked the files. Took screenshots. Then I did something even sneakier. I emailed his clinic using an alias and asked for session availability. I wanted to know how fast they responded, how automated the system was, whether they used case logs, shared notes, anything I could exploit later. And that's when I realized, if he was already operating unethically, I could let him bury himself. All I had to do was let them get comfortable. Back to present day. I forwarded the malpractice complaint to his licensing board using my real name. Attached a formal statement. Attached audio clips. Attached a letter from my actual lawyer confirming the legitimacy of the material. And then I leaked it to a blog. No, not TMZ or anything that flashy. Something better, a professional watchdog site that specializes in healthcare violations. The kind of site HR departments check when hiring a licensed therapist. The kind of place that lives on LinkedIn shares and legal newsletters. Low-key. Devastating. 3 days later, Greg's license status went under review. That's when she started showing up. First at my office. She accidentally dropped off a Tupperware of food. I told reception to toss it. Then she waited outside the Radisson. Caught me on my way in, eyes red, makeup melted, holding a cardigan like it was armor. "Brian," she started, blocking my path. "Please just talk to me." "I heard you talk," I said. "I even heard you lie. I think I'm good." "You set me up," she said, voice breaking. "You humiliated me." "No," I said. "You set yourself up. I just gave you a stage. The mic was always yours." She looked around like she was expecting backup, like someone was going to step out and say, "Gotcha," and the world would rewind. But no one came. "Greg's going to lose his license," I added. "That doesn't bother you?" She looked at me like I'd hit her with a truck. "What?" "Yeah. All those recordings? Already submitted. Should have stuck to the yoga mats." "You can't. You didn't. That's illegal." "Nope," I said. "We were in our home. On our speaker. During a party. No expectation of privacy. And you said his name. Multiple times." She stumbled back, like someone had kicked her in the stomach. Then she whispered, "I loved him." Finally. There it was. The truth. Short, stupid, tragic. I nodded slowly. "And he loved the idea of you." Until it got messy. She didn't respond. Just stood there like a sad wax figure melting in the sun. I walked past her. Into the hotel. Up the elevator. That night, she texted me one last time. "Tell me what you want. Just tell me what it would take to fix this." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed an undo button. Then I hit block. But I wasn't done yet. Because Greg had a wife. And she was about to get an email from someone named Brian with attachments. You'd think destroying a marriage would be the peak. The crescendo. The fireworks finale before the credits roll. But that wasn't the end. Not for me. See, I'm not in this for closure. I'm in this for the long game. The legacy. Because what they never seem to grasp is that humiliation is temporary. But consequences? That's a longer burn. And speaking of burns, let's talk about Greg's wife. Yep. The good doctor was married. Still is, technically. I found her the same way I find everything. LinkedIn, baby. Never underestimate the power of people who overshare their lives for clout. One search for Gregory Martin LMFT, and there she was, Camille Martin, lifestyle blogger and marriage workshop host. Irony is a drug, and I was overdosing. Her page was exactly what you'd expect from someone married to a snake with a psychology degree. All soft filters and bullet journaling and quotes like, "Love is built on vulnerability." Her most recent post? A reel of them holding hands on a hike with the caption, "Still choosing each other every day." I stared at that for a minute. Then I clicked message. "Hi, Camille. You don't know me, but your husband does." I attached 3 things: a brief intro, a few key transcripts, and a timestamped audio clip of Greg whispering, "I never feel guilty." It's like she's already gone before I even touch her. I didn't include everything, just enough. I hit send and waited. 3 hours later, she replied. One word. Meet. We picked a public park. Her request. Smart woman. I wore neutral colors, clean shave, no theatrics. Just your average, betrayed husband, here to pass the torch. Camille was tall. Tired eyes. That kind of beauty people call graceful when they really mean exhausted. She didn't waste time. Sat down, crossed her arms, and said, "Is it true?" I handed her a flash drive. "It's worse," I said. She didn't cry. Didn't flinch. Just nodded slowly, like her brain was ticking off boxes. Then she said, "What do you want from me?" "That's the question, isn't it?" I leaned forward. "Nothing. I want you to be free. And I want you to know the guy you co-founded a couples retreat with is the same guy who was helping my wife fantasize about faking her own emotional growth." She blinked, caught off guard. "Wait, she said that? She called you the brand. Said he only stayed married to you because you made him marketable." Silence. Then a whisper, "Wow." I let her sit with that. Sometimes the deepest wounds are made with honesty, not sharpness. She finally looked up. "What's your plan now?" I smiled. "That depends. What's yours?" We talked for 30 minutes. I learned things. Ugly things. How Greg had manipulated other clients. How Camille had suspicions before but never proof. How their marriage was already brittle, hollow from years of curated appearances and quiet withdrawals. By the end, we weren't friends. But we were allies. Briefly, efficiently, devastatingly. She said she needed a few days to think. I said she had too. If she didn't take the next step, I would. 2 days later, she published a blog post titled, "When Your Marriage Counselor Cheats on You, and You're His Wife." It went viral. She didn't name him outright. She didn't have to. The phrasing was surgical. My husband, a therapist, violated both his marriage and his license. He told one woman she was the only real thing in his life, while telling me I was his brand identity. Greg was torched in the comments section. Therapists weighed in. Clients posted cryptic, "Thank you for validating what I felt during sessions" replies. His licensing board took note, again. Meanwhile, my ex-wife's Etsy shop, yeah, she sold soy candles with names like Divine Clarity and Healing after him, started getting review bombed. Smells like betrayal. Didn't burn evenly, kind of like your loyalty. Packaging was great. Scent was weak. Just like the owner. I didn't post those, by the way. That was the internet. The court of public opinion moves fast when you give it a target and a reason. She tried damage control. Closed the shop. Made her Instagram private. Sent me another text from a new number saying, "Why are you doing this to me?" I didn't respond. Because at that point, I had one final move to play. Her yoga studio. Technically, she didn't own it. She was a partner. But she taught 3 classes a week and filmed half their social content. And more importantly, she had positioned herself as the ethical leadership face of their brand. Weekly videos. Breathwork blogs. That kind of thing. So I sent the audio clip, the one from the party, to the studio owner. Again, not illegal. No doctored content. Just the truth, wrapped in clean MP3 format. I didn't get a reply. But 3 days later, she was dropped from the site. Her classes canceled. Her last Facebook post, the one that said, "Your body is your home," got edited by her own team to say formerly taught by _______. Her name? Scrubbed. Her face? Gone. She sent me an email this time. "You've made your point. Please stop." I sat with that. She was right. I had made my point. So I sent one line back. "You didn't just cheat on me. You did it with someone who profits from pain. And you gave him mine. That's the point." No reply. It's been a month now. Greg's still under review. Camille moved out. She's doing some kind of Instagram live series about navigating deception while reclaiming self. Whatever works. My ex-wife? Last I heard, she's staying with her cousin. Still thinks I should have just talked to her. Classic. And me? I sleep better now. Not because I'm healed, Not because I'm moving on, but because I know that in a world where people think cheating is a mistake and not a decision, I made sure they got reminded. Reminded what it costs. Reminded what it feels like when the person you underestimated turns out to be smarter, colder, and infinitely more patient. And I'm still not done. Because remember how I said this started with her putting her phone on Do Not Disturb? She thought that meant I wouldn't hear. She forgot that I don't need sound to see the truth. And next? Well, let's just say I've got one last surprise. The kind that goes viral. Revenge isn't loud. It's not throwing plates or shouting in parking lots. It's not the stuff of melodramas where someone screams, "You ruined my life," while the credits roll. Real revenge is quieter. Clinical. It's a scalpel, not a hammer. You don't want the other person to break. You want them to stay intact just long enough to understand exactly what they've lost. And trust me, she understood. By now, her name was Digital Ash. Her social accounts were dormant. The yoga studio cut ties, her Etsy shop was dead, and she was hiding out at her cousin's apartment like a villain in exile. Greg was still under investigation by the board, his license in limbo, his practice gutted, and his wife had turned their shared social media presence into a curated series on surviving betrayal with dignity. As for me, I was already on the next phase. It started with a USB drive. Inside, a compilation. Call it a highlight reel. All cleanly packaged and timestamped. Text message transcripts. Audio clips. A copy of the complaint I filed with the licensing board. A PDF of Camille's now viral blog post. And finally, a short video of me sitting calmly at my desk, looking straight into the camera and saying, "If you're watching this, it means you work with, have been treated by, or have paid for services provided by Greg Martin." I never raised my voice. Never got angry. Just laid out the timeline. Dates, messages, violations. Made it clear that if you were a patient of his, especially if your marriage failed during treatment, you might want to consider whether your therapist had other priorities. I didn't upload it to YouTube. That would be too easy. Too traceable. No, I emailed it. One by one. To his clients. I found them by combing through his old public workshop registrations, another thing Camille handed over without hesitation. You'd be surprised how many people don't scrub their Eventbrite history. Each email was personalized. No accusations, just, "If this information impacts you, here are the facts. Do with it what you will." I never heard back from most. But one woman, a former client who'd attended one of his weekend intensives with her husband, responded. She thanked me, then told me she'd already filed her own complaint. Another domino. By the end of the month, the licensing board updated Greg's profile to reflect pending disciplinary review for ethical misconduct. A vague phrase with the impact of a sledgehammer in professional circles. Clinics that once contracted him for seminars quietly dropped him from rosters. His RateMD profile became a battlefield. His Google My Business listing? Closed. That was the legacy I wanted. Not rage. Not a prison sentence. Just truth, etched into his name forever. Let him live in the shadow of it. Let every new patient Google him and feel that flicker of doubt. Let every LinkedIn recruiter think twice. But still, that wasn't the twist. See, I knew from the start that pain fades. Even shame has a half-life. People forget. They move on. But there's one place where a story lives forever, unedited, untouchable. Court records. And I knew exactly how to get us there. All I had to do was sue. No, not for money. I didn't want a dime. But there's this beautiful thing called intentional infliction of emotional distress, and when paired with breach of fiduciary duty from a licensed therapist, it becomes a case. A very public one. Especially when the therapist's wife is willing to testify. I filed the civil suit. Greg was served. And like clockwork, the phone call started again. This time from her, my ex-wife. She wasn't mad anymore. She was terrified. Her first voicemail was shakier than usual. "Brian, please. This is serious. You're making it worse. For all of us. For all of us." She still thought this was about us. I ignored it. Then came the email. Subject line. "Please stop. I never meant for any of this to happen. I didn't know he was doing this with other people. I didn't know he'd lose his license. I didn't think it would get this far. I just wanted to feel seen. I just wanted to feel loved again." There it was. The root. She wanted to feel seen. So I made sure she was. The hearing date went public. Some local courthouse reporter picked it up for a human interest column. Former therapist sued for affair with patient's spouse. Harmless headline. Devastating reach. The day of the hearing, Greg showed up looking like he hadn't slept in a week. hair longer, suit rumpled. His lawyer whispered to him as they walked in, like that would soften the blow. Camille sat in the gallery, dignified, poised. She didn't look at him once. And me? I told the truth. Every detail. Calm. Measured. No drama. Just a timeline, backed by evidence, backed by the facts. The judge listened, took notes, seemed less interested in the affair and more in the total lack of professional boundaries. Greg's lawyer tried to pivot. Blamed, emotional overlap, blurred lines, mutual consent. The judge wasn't buying it. And when it was Camille's turn, she stood and said, I co-hosted marriage workshops with a man who was actively destroying one behind my back. I believe that's fraud. Mic drop. The case is still pending. But honestly, it doesn't matter how it ends. Because Greg's name is now attached to that lawsuit. Forever. And as for her, she still sends messages. Different numbers. Different tones. Sometimes she's furious. You're vindictive. You're insane. You've ruined both our lives. Sometimes she's soft. I miss us. I'd give anything to take it back. She even tried to send me a handwritten letter. Said it felt more real that way. I burned it. Not out of anger. Out of clarity. Because I don't need closure. I don't need an apology. I have what I need. I have the footage. The facts. The silence that follows when people finally realize they underestimated the wrong man. And every time I walk through my house, past the smart speaker that started it all, I feel nothing but peace. Because the system still works. It listens. It remembers. And sometimes, when I'm feeling nostalgic, I'll say the phrase out loud just to hear it echo. I'm glad we did this. And this time, I really mean it. Subscribe to the channel